Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 123 of ASBN Live. Today's episode is entitled Blockchain, NFTs, and Metaverse for Good. This is a really special webinar because it is brought to us by our members. Everyone here, for the most part, is a member of ASBN, had this great idea and thought it would be such a wonderful presentation to bring to all of you. And I think so too, with this really cutting edge, future-minded presentation that we're about to hear about concepts that are honestly a little bit over my head, but I'm excited to learn and see how we can harness this technology for the betterment of society. And I'd now like to turn it over to Adam Carlton, who's going to lead this presentation for us. Take it away, Adam.
Oh, thanks so much for having me here today. So just to let everyone know, we had a minor change in plans. Our facilitator, Gagan Levy, unfortunately came down with an illness, and he's going to be fine, but he's in the hospital right now and has not been able to get checked out yet. So with that, we're going to do a little bit of adjustments here as we're going through this, but let me go ahead and get the presentation up on the screen here for you. And then let me know when that's visible. Are we able to see that? Awesome. Great. Okay. Thanks so much. Okay, so
Adam, it's on your presenter view.
Let's just switch those views.
Perfect.
There we go. Great. Let me reshare this one more time because actually it's fine. It'll be great. Okay, so what we wanted to do today really was start out with getting everyone centered and reminding people what the past has been for the technology changes that most of us have seen through our lifetimes. And so, Gagan was going to lead this. He does this really well. He opens with a mindfulness practice. I'm nowhere near the skill set that he has in that, but I can at least reflect on some of the things that I've experienced through my time in the internet and with technology. And so, I'll just take a moment to reflect on that. So I remember, for example, when I was really young, some of the first technology I worked with was bulletin boards. And then I remember, not long after that, people starting talking about the web and the early AOL CDs that we used. And then from there, we had the .com boom, right? And then bust. And I remember at the time how we actually had a group of my friends, we had a macro that we would click on ads and make a little money off of that, right? And how immature and hype driven a lot of that was. And then when the technology started to mature, right, over time, we saw how e-commerce became not only a driver, but a serious disruptor. And then we look now to the financial crisis of 2008, and that's where actually digital assets came from, right, was when Bitcoin came out of 2008. Short story, I discovered it around 2010. At the time, if you were to read the press about it, which was pretty limited, that the government could ban it, it was dangerous, it was for all these terrible things, and it crashed. And it crashed from, let's say, like $12 or $13 to $3.40. And so I sold, I kept my $1,000 worth. Oh, nope, I can't do that. I'm going to have to let it go. So it's really good to take a perspective, right, on where this is historically. And if you take a long view in it, I think it creates a very different approach to understanding where this technology has come from and where we believe it's going. All right. So we wanted to talk about really three of the key players in this. Myself, obviously, is the CEO and co-founder. Gagan, who's recently joined us as a co-founder, as well as our chief marketing officer. And then Gene Trano, who has been with us very much since the start, working with us on compliance and advisory. And so I wanted to just stop for a moment here And we've got a couple other panelists that are with us today, and we want to talk, let them speak for a minute, introduce themselves briefly, and talk about, what gets them excited about this blockchain for good. So I'd like to go ahead and maybe start with you, Gene.
Yeah, so I'm Gene Shrono, and I have spent 30 years in financial services regulatory compliance. A couple of the highlighted firms are on the screen, but throughout that time, especially in the 90s when I was in the credit card industry, I always felt that he who captures the technology will capture the future of financial services. And what gets me excited about this space, and this time particularly in this space, is that this area, this technology will really enable, and it already is to some extent, enabling financial services to be faster in their delivery, to be cheaper in their delivery, which will lead to greater inclusion. And I've always wanted to see that happen. Everybody I ever worked for said that they were going to do that, and no one has accomplished it yet. So the excitement about being part of this project in particular and its connection to the new technology and the metaverse, I really think will enable a lot of people to have access to financial services that were never able to have that access before.
Thank you, Gene. And Rose, love to hear from you next.
Hi, thank you, Adam, and thank you to all those who are joining us today. Well, the journey to crypto really for me, like everyone else heard about Bitcoin. And then we were in Copenhagen in 2014, and walking inside the train station, we saw this, it's not even a billboard. It's like there's this machine where you can buy Bitcoin. And you know I didn't have the foresight then to at least buy one, which if I had at least bought one, I would have made thousands of dollars by now. And then after Copenhagen, we went to Brussels, and again there was this Bitcoin machine where you could just buy Bitcoin. So fast forward to 2019, when cryptocurrency was more talked about and there were a lot more options. I started to personally invest in crypto. And as a member of the financial services industry, everything that I say here is not financial advice. It's all my personal journey. And so I started investing in crypto and really looking at it from an investor viewpoint, where seeing how I had missed the capital appreciation from buying crypto in Copenhagen, I started to invest in it. And the challenge, even in 2019, was the difficulty in being able to gain access to cryptocurrency. And I was so happy and excited when we heard that Adam was starting Pink Panda. And that's kind of the journey that I'm in. And I look forward to talking more about what the possibilities are for the future that Jean had started to allude to.
Great. Thanks so much, Rose. And Nancy, love to hear a few words from you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Nancy Andrews. I've spent my career over the past 30 plus years in the hedge fund industry, focused on global macro trading strategies. I've worked anywhere from startups to large institutions, building quantitative trading strategies and trading those strategies, to incubating traders and having one of the largest fund of funds portfolios globally in global macro. What excites me is we are in a new asset class, and every trader gets really excited about a new asset class, because in the beginning, there's a slow adoption. That slow adoption means that it's met with volatility. Volatility means that there's opportunity. And so what I've seen over the past, realistically, 5-6 years, is we started out with algorithmic traders dipping their toe in the water and starting to trade it and seeing the success they've had. Now, global macro managers are slowly getting on board. They're getting on board because they see the opportunity meaning alpha to their portfolio, and they also don't want to be left behind when their competitors are being successful in their performance and their clients are all asking them why. Bamboo's interesting to me for many reasons, but one of the most important is it's very complex to get involved. There's a steep learning curve. And what Bamboo is trying to build is having this platform that makes it easier to engage, not only in how to use the platform, but also in community involvement, finding your community to give you comfort, to bring you up that learning curve so that you can get more involved, because we're not going backwards. This is the future. I firmly believe DeFi is here to stay, and we're only at the beginning of all these opportunities yet to come.
Great. Thanks so much, Nancy. All right, so let's jump into some of the meat of the presentation here, and I'm going to try to spend, no more than 10 minutes on this because we want to give some ample opportunity for Q&A. So if there's anything that I go through too quickly and you want me to cover more, we'll have an opportunity to speak to that, and we certainly be happy to talk to anyone more in depth afterwards as well. To everyone's point, this is a complex topic, and Gagan and I joke a little bit. He's really great at distilling down complex concepts into something short and sweet, where I can take something really down very deep. So we're going to try to meet somewhere here in the middle on that, and here we go. All right, so when I started thinking about doing something in this space, right, what did I face, and we still face this today, is that the platforms involved are extremely complex, and the environment that we're in, right, there's a tremendous amount of regulatory avoidance. There's a lot of offshoring going on. There's really uncertainty, I think, from brands and users, right? I talk to a lot of people, a lot of different brands, a lot of different organizations. They're very interested, right? But there's a fair amount of mistrust and a lot of negativity in articles out there. And there's a lot of volatility, of course, as we mentioned earlier. So, and then you have, anonymity, and you have hacks, and you have lack of transparency. So all of that kind of creates, right, some strong challenges out there. And so our approach has always been to create a very seamless and trustworthy approach to solving some of those problems. And so we're going to get into that here shortly, but a very easy to use, elegant, intuitive user interface. We're building towards compliance, which we expect to come, and we're going to talk about that later on. We've always approached this from a regulatory compliance perspective. We think that our skill set and our capabilities is onboarding people into this space through advisory services and through our platform, that we think we can create a real bridge for people who don't understand these concepts very well, but do want to get involved. And then I think our track records speak for ourselves, and as well as from a transparency perspective, we're also working closely with our community to collaborate with them on governance. So welcome to Bamboo, right? And really, we tried to simplify this into one simple statement. We're trying to create an all-in-one digital assets platform that makes it really easy for individuals, brands and organizations and investors to come into these three primary digital asset classes. So the metaverse, decentralized finance, as well as NFTs. And so I thought, I'd pause here. We have a demonstration of the application that I'm going to give, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the application. I think that's really very important, is to see what we're actually putting together. We can talk all day about this, but until you actually see what we're doing, it's not so meaningful. So here we go. Welcome to the beta demonstration of our current application. You can see here from the home screen that the interface is easy, elegant, and intuitive. When we enter into BNB, the native token of the Binance Smart Chain, you can see that the graphing feature is animated, and it allows you to trace your finger across the graph, along with purchasing BNB very simply through our integration with MoonPay. Returning to the home screen, we'll look at send and receive functionality. First, to send, you can simply scan another user's wallet code or send via a manual address. Moving on to the receive functionality, you'll notice where our innovation really shines. You can share your wallet address through a normal phone share functionality, but we really enjoy the fidget spinner wallet code that includes a user's custom avatar. Notice the depth of the animation. Next, moving to the news feed, the user can get timely updates on the project, as well as we can conduct user polling to determine user sentiment. Users can easily access our embedded Medium posts to get the latest on the project. The last tab is for transactions in the user's profile. First, the avatar can be customized to embody a user's persona as well as a pseudonym. We plan on next creating these avatars as NFTs, as they have proven incredibly popular with the community. The transaction feature shows how we have extracted away the complexity of the blockchain by being able to see transactions with other parties you've interacted with. If a user wants to see a more detailed view, they simply drill into the public blockchain for a deeper dive. We believe, however, most users will choose to use the existing interface for its ease of use. We are quite confident we are the only app with this innovative functionality. The user preferences screen allows users to adjust their desired settings around currency, graph display mode, as well as the ability to extract their wallet's private key. We hope you've enjoyed seeing the rich experience our current beta has to offer, and we are excited to continue on this journey of delighting our customers. All right, so welcome to the beta demonstration. There we go. I notice I use the word users a lot in there, but that's really where I come from. And anyone who maybe has seen the video from 1997 of Steve Jobs, he takes a lot of heat from one of his employees, and they're asking him, you know, how does Java address the ideas of open doc? And this was like a defunct platform, you know, at the time. And it was really great. If you haven't seen it, you should look it up. And I love this quote: "You've got to start with the customer experience and work backward for the technology," right? And so that's really been our focus all along, is this creating this intersection of what does the user actually need, and not looking at the technology that necessarily exists today, right? And so when I talk about abstracting out capabilities, you know, there's a lot of tools out there like MetaMask and Discord and Telegram and wormholes and all these very, very complex things that make it very difficult to access these assets. So one of the key features is that we are, again, very community centric, right? And what we believe, we'll talk about this here shortly, is how this creates what we call cross-pollination, right? This grassroots marketing, these force multipliers that we experience by enabling our users to be part of this ecosystem. And so without getting too much into the specific capabilities, you know, the three primary asset classes we focus on are NFTs, DeFi, and Metaverse. And we have a list of kind of some of the key capabilities around there that we are building or will be building. But my perspective on this always has been, again, looking at from that user experience and taking what Peter Thiel calls the 0 to 1 theory, where, you know, what doesn't exist today and how can we simplify that and how can we create that, right? The beauty of Web3 and the technologies that exist today is that as these technologies are being developed, it's very easy for us to plug into those, right, and abstract those away and create a much easier user experience on that. So not that it's not, you know, difficult and hard work, right, but the public blockchain and those public connections creates those intersections that creates that capability for us. So this is one of Gagan's favorite conversations around this, and I would love him to be here to talk about this, but I'm going to do my best. So he calls this our consultancy growth hack, and really what we're talking about here is, and we'll talk about a couple clients here shortly, but we can work with organizations that are very interested in bringing in both their intellectual property as well as their goods and services into NFTs or into the metaverse, but don't understand how to do it, that they need someone they can trust, right? And they oftentimes have very large and dedicated communities already that are built in to the organizations. And so, the quote here, why pay for cost per acquisition when we can actually get paid to leverage these communities? So if we have, say, 1,000 NFTs being produced, then and 10% of them actually decide to use our platform and use it for other purposes, not only have we made a low cost acquisition for that user, but we actually have made a profit instead of actually having to pay for that acquisition. And so this is two examples of organizations that we're in conversations with right now. We're a little bit further along with Conscious Alliance. They have an extensive library of IP, as well as artists and musicians that they've worked with. And they want to enable that, and they want to take that IP and bring it out into their existing communities. So we're looking at their 20-year poster and doing one of their initial NFT runs and doing that as a test run, and then growing their program outwards. And this is really one of the areas too that we're, our vision takes us, right, is we think once we have done really well in the United States, the world is looking for, oftentimes to the US, for regulatory capabilities, right, that have, US-based startups. It's a very different perspective on technology for the rest of the world. And so we have two examples of organizations here that we've been talking to that are really looking for ways, right, to kind of break the old financial models down. And so we really want to be ready to create those lower cost transactions, that full accessibility to these digital assets for really anyone globally. Let's see. So real quick recap here on where we're at in traction. One of the things that we found, we saw a lot of success with our first version of our application. Our first version, not the one I showed you today, was simply a tracker, right? It was able to track crypto assets, and it was very easy to use interface. We actually peaked at 10,000 users, of which 8,000 we retained, and now we're roughly around 5,000. So we think we're going to convert, a good portion of those to the application when it goes live into the App Store, which we project to be on July 1st. And then briefly, I'll mention one of the key partnerships that we're working with right now is Lootverse. I work very closely with the founder of Lootverse, which we call the Metaverse for Grownups. And they've experienced approximately $20 million in a GDP of their alpha version. We're building a regulatory compliant payment rail into that metaverse. And this is another example of the cross-pollination that we believe we'll see. Is there are going to be users in that metaverse. There's going to be businesses in that metaverse. There's going to be brands in that metaverse that also are interested in NFTs, that are also interested in our communities. And that's where the cross-pollination comes in. Okay, so I wanted to speak just briefly about, and we mentioned this earlier about the history, right, of digital assets. And so kind of some of the observations I made on this is the more you zoom out, the more it makes sense. So, when you look at cryptocurrency market cap, right, 19 billion to 1.2 trillion today, and people might say, well, it was 3 trillion, a few months ago. Like, you're right, but it is volatile, but it also has found a floor, right? And again, you're going from 19 billion to 1.2 trillion. DeFi deployment, same thing. It was at 200 billion, now it's back to 100. So you're seeing some of the speculation fall back, but it certainly is not retreating anywhere to, to 2017 type numbers. And then on the projections, right, what we're starting to see, and these are coming from, organizations that are pretty conservative, Metaverse, as well as NFT market share projections grow, and the Metaverse projections grow pretty pronounced. We really feel like once mainstream adoption starts to come into play is when we see regulation. And so I actually want to pause for a second here too, because I think this is a critical point. I know Gene wanted to talk for a minute or two about where he sees the regulatory environment. Oh, are you frozen, Gene? Looks like he's frozen. Okay. So can Nancy, can you hear him, or is it on my side? You can't hear him. Okay.
Now, maybe he can he hear
Can
us?
anybody hear me?
Maybe he can read.
Yeah, we can hear you now. There it is. A
Perfect.
little lag. Okay, go ahead, Gene.
So I've been tracking cryptocurrency, specifically Bitcoin, since 2011, and then the entire kind of growth of that. We saw the initial plug for regulation in the US through the Financial Crimes Enforcement Unit in 2013, which required that cryptocurrency be registered on an exchange to trade. And that was really the foundation of, I think, the regulatory environment in the US. Since then, a lot of the exchanges have either become banks or gotten money service business licenses, or even trust banks to hold the coins in custody. So good foundation, no surprises. Traditional anti-money laundering and regulatory environments are existing. In the DeFi space, not as much, but the great news is that bipartisan bill was announced yesterday. Senators Loomis and Gillibrand have created at least a working draft of an initial piece of legislation that would put the regulatory environment, especially for DeFi, between the SEC, which has been somewhat aggressive in pursue different areas, obviously.
Yeah, I think we're losing our connection there with you, Gene.
Regulator for that entity. Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're back. Yeah, I
Can
think
you hear
we
me?
captured that. You were at SEC.
Okay, sorry about that.
It's okay. It's okay.
Okay, and so I think the good news is that there is proposed legislation that was drafted bipartisan in the U.S. Congress, announced yesterday by Senators Loomis and Gillibrand, and that will create the regulatory environment for a comprehensive set of guidelines that will oversee the industry, supervised by the SEC and the CFTC, depending on the determination of the type of token that it is, whether it's a security or a commodity. And that will also cover the risks associated with anti-money laundering, sanction screening, and the traditional types of areas. It also covers tax and how cryptocurrencies will be taxed. And it seems positive, and at least in the initial proposal, and consumer protection, which is also very important. We at Pink Panda here have viewed, and Bamboo have viewed regulatory compliance as a key mainstay for success, and are following the legislation closely, and will continue to do so. We think that the outcome will be positive for the industry, and we'll be able to continue to grow and develop and create that access we've been looking to do for those people who have been blocked from financial inclusion.
All right, and did you want to add anything to that, Nancy, or I think you're on mute. I'm sorry, Nancy, you're on mute. We'll go ahead and move on. It's okay. I think he covered it pretty well earlier. Okay. Oh, there you are.
Okay, yeah, so just the left part of this slide is just what I was alluding to earlier in my overview, and it's just look at the growth that we've seen on crypto trading and in the DeFi space. And as you said, Adam, yeah, we were higher a few months ago and we've come down, but I think that as soon as we can decouple and we have its own identity and how it's going to trade on its own merits, I think you're going to see more adoption coming on as more people trust it, use it, trade it. And I think right now is a great opportunity to get involved over the next few months. And I only see upside coming, especially if we continue to go through a recession period in the economy. I think that you really want to put some of your assets into crypto.
Yeah, and to that point, actually, I think it was recently JP Morgan now has classified digital assets their new preferred alternative investments. So Gene and I joke a lot about this, but what a swing we've seen in JP Morgan over the past few years on their opinion of digital assets. So, okay. A couple more number slides here. I'm going to move through these really quickly just because I want to spend more time on conversation and questions. But this is just at a high level where we project our revenue sources to come from. And so, you see, I see, again, consulting services, strategy and advisory feeding into the mobile platform and vice versa, right? And so the categories we have on here is in the decentralized finance, that's table stakes for people who aren't familiar with this, is that just you need the ability to trade, right? And to move liquidity into the assets or out of the assets that you want to. Some people will be more active with that. Some people are going to be happy to use, for example, stable coins, right? And so we think there's actually a substantial potential to harvest transaction fees from that. And what I have there is basically a tiered technology approach that allows us to initially capture what we call spot trading, which I have it at 0 at year 4, but it actually grows to 2 at year 2 and 3. And then as we start to create best price trading, which is, there's a technical term for that, but it's basically DEX aggregation, where we're aggregating pricing from various chains and various sources. And then ultimately, we think that if we can add limit trading into this, which requires us to bend the Web3 rules a little bit by creating a not fully on-chain order book, which I'm happy to dive into details on that, but I don't want to bore people with that right now. That creates a real strong capability to, again, as the user base grows, right, draw income from there. And then NFT and Metaverse, we see real strong growth, although not quite as strong on the NFT side. We see Metaverse integrations, right? I'm still putting that as a to be determined. That is such an early market. We think there's potential in there, but did I freeze? Am I back?
No, you're here.
Okay, sorry. Someone just asked if I froze. Okay. And then lastly, we have our strategy and advisory from our consulting services, right? Which is, again, onboarding those brands into that. We think there are some other categories in here, but we wanted to be really conservative with our estimates, both for revenue as well as expenses. So really quickly, here's our model. We expect to hit a net positive EBITDA in third quarter of 2023. That's after basically we implement, the next phases of the application. We get some more clients onboarded from a services revenue perspective and grow our user base. And the user growth on this is really not, again, it's very conservative. Over a 4-year growth, we only go to 1.1 million users, starting at a first year growth of 20,000, which actually is quite small in this space, but again, I feel like it's much better to be conservative on our estimates and then under promise and over deliver. Okay, so just a little bit more left here, and then we can move to questions. So where we're at today is we just recently completed our rebranding to Bamboo Asset Management. We originally, in our parent company is Pink Panda Holdings Incorporated, but we wanted something a little more professional, a little more narrative to it, look and feel that Gagan and Guru Media have been instrumental in getting us there. And so we're at our pre-seed raise right now. We're raising $500,000 on a pre-money valuation of 4.5 million. We've designed this to be extremely investor friendly, and so happy to share term sheets and with everyone afterwards. It's no safes, no warrants, and it's just straight equity, very straightforward approach. And then you can see the rest of our roadmap there. Basically, we need to deploy our beta to the App Store. We start rolling out our branding and our consulting, right? Which we've already got a couple of those in the pipeline here. And then we launch our VersaPay MVP here at the end of this quarter. And so that's really when we start seeing the traction getting very sticky. And then we forecast a seed raise in early, in late Q4 2022, that then scales us up to the next level, where we're starting to build deeper infrastructure and really leveraging, right, our capabilities and our history of success. Okay, so most of us have already introduced here. We do have a fairly extensive team, and not everyone is listed on here as well. You know, there's a large number of token holders. We have about 700 active community members right now. We've got somewhere around 20 moderators that are volunteers. So we already have a very strong community built in, and we just recently launched the DAO, which, you know, is going to assist in governing a system organization as well too. So I'm going to go ahead and close and wrap up here, but I want to say that, you know, I think that we're introducing one here, a new version of our panda. He's the DAO Llama, and we wanted something that's still fun and playful, but also helps to deliver the message of, you know, who we are as an organization, and that we can, you know, embrace not only the decentralization and the Web3 and all the new kind of meme fun technology that's coming at us, but also, you know, deliver utility, bring trust, and integrate ourselves in a mainstream way. So I am going to go through and see if we can answer some questions here. And I welcome Jean, Rose, and Nancy to hop in as well too. Okay, so let's see. Let me go to the last question here. I may have missed this earlier on, but what blockchain is the org layered on? So right now we're on the BNB chain, which is the Binance chain. We expect to be branching out to additional blockchains, primarily Ethereum first. And then we expect to go to any Ethereum compatible chains is the next step. Let's see. How do you help people trust this sector? There is still a mistrust, ambivalence, etc. I mean, I think that's, at the end of the day, you know, trust and respect is earned, right? And it's very easily lost. So we've spent the better part of, you know, of a year now building trust with our existing community, and when we present to organizations, when we work with brands, we come very transparent with them. You know, we have a very straightforward approach on what the risks associated with it are. You know, we're not based on kind of what I would describe as the hype machine out there. We talk about having a long view. We talk about the regulatory environment and you know, our compliance. So it really is, it's educational, and it's earning respect and trust through our transparency and through the way we approach things. Let's see. I see a question about, will I be at Consensus this week? I'm a core member with the Disruptor DAO, and we have a core of team members at the conference. We'll have a presence at ETH NYC. Would love to connect. Okay, I will not be at Consensus, unfortunately, this week, but I will absolutely reach out and connect to you. I'd love to have a further conversation. Let's see. Is there any discussion around the crypto climate accord? I think that I get this question a lot around like the cryptocurrency and electricity consumption for proof of work. And I'm certainly not an expert in this. when I look at it, is what you're seeing is outside of Bitcoin, most proof of work networks are moving to a proof of stake, which is a newer form of consensus. The Bitcoin traditionalists will argue, and I think this is a valid argument, is that Bitcoin is the most secure, unhacked, dispersed, decentralized network in the world, and that's why it has this value, is that it's been all these years and it has not been hacked or broken. And trust me, many actors have tried, right? So I think that comes at a cost, and that comes at the cost of electricity that's required for Bitcoin. I don't know what the answer is, other than I think that it is driving good conversations. We have seen some positive movement and moving to more renewable energy resources for Bitcoin mining. I also think that it's you see a lot of organizations out there that have either carbon credits built into their protocol or other methods. So I think it keeps people in the conversation, if nothing else, and helps us focus on power consumption and focus on renewable energy sources. I think there was another energy question on there too. Let's see. Yeah, I think I see actually 3 questions. Okay.
Adam, there's a question on the social good
Yep,
portion.
I see a Rose question. Take it away.
I can help with that. Okay, so as a chair of the Pink Panda and now Bamboo Social Good Advisory Board, I'm happy to share that last year in 2021, even though Pink Panda Holdings and Bamboo is just starting, we were able to donate $10,000 to 3 cancer charities. The last of whom, Breast Cancer Action, is an activist and research-based breast cancer nonprofit, and we donated $4,000 to them. The intention of the Social Good Advisory Board is to engage not just the users of Pink Panda and but the entire community in making sure that the organization is able to help funnel a portion of the funds that we earn towards social good causes. And not only that, we're seeing that in the future on a metaverse platform, for example, Adam and I have had conversations about having some of the billboard spaces, or is that right? I think billboards is what we call it, Adam, where we can have a certain number of them dedicated to nonprofits, and that way they can spread their word not just to their followers, but also to a new demographic of people who they can reach for donations and who they can reach for volunteers.
Yeah, and just to add on to that as well, we didn't mention that in the deck, but that's always been a very important aspect of our token, our organization, right? And so when we initially issued the first token, a large portion of it was reserved for charitable contributions, and that was a reason why a lot of people got involved with it, is they wanted to be involved with a protocol that had some purpose associated with it. And the first handful of donations were donated to cancer charities, as she mentioned, and that just has has always had a special connection for me after losing my mother and a close friend to cancer. And so as we start to shift into more a DAO governed token, one of the things that I would really love to see, and that I've seen a lot of support in the community, is that we have some portion of that treasury that is permanently allocated to ongoing social good and ongoing charitable contributions, right? And so it's pretty much earmarked for it there. But I think the reason why I've kind of held back on declaring it's this, right, is we really want that community engagement. We want the we want the community and the organizations and the people we're working with to have a voice in that. And so our recent token migration, basically recently converting to a more flexible, lower supply token, has enabled those capabilities for us to get a lot more engagement, and to get that distributed governance, right, of those decisions. So.
And I can take the other question as well, Adam. Sarah. Hi, Sarah. Thank you for the question. That's a great one. And indeed, it's not financial advice. So Sarah's question is, how are we advising clients on NFT and so essentially, we're still in the pioneering stage, right? And for green retirement and for retirement plans in general, we need to have portability and we need to have the investments in the retirement plans in the public markets. And right now, although we have a handful of crypto ETFs, it is not still in the I would say it's still too early. There's no proven track record yet of the ETFs in a marketplace that we can present to our clients. And so that's one of the things, though, that I'm seeing in the future is that with the growth of the market, like and Nancy can address this much better as we have more and more funds getting invested into crypto and possibly NFTs, and that is then where we in the retirement plan space can offer this to our clients. So thanks again for the question, Sarah. Nancy, do you want to take over on the ETFs and maybe mutual fund possibilities?
I mean, well, I don't focus on mutual funds. All my stuff is global macro and cash and futures. But I would say from managing assets, you're going to, it's too early for the pensions and the retirement funds to really get invested. They're going to need the volatility to come down. They're going to need the regulations to come in. And they can do it indirectly through funds themselves that they're getting invested in, through hedge funds that have a de minimis allocation. But I do think if hedge funds take on too large of a percentage while the volatility is where it is and where the regulatory environment is, you're going to see them get a little bit skittish. So I think it is crawl, walk, run. I think that takes time. I think that, you've got to have a level of comfort. And I think right now it's a very different type of investor base that is getting involved at this early stage. The institutions are starting to get in, but a very small percentage of their portfolios.
Yeah. And I'll just add a little bit more specifically to NFTs and just kind of my perception of seeing it. And this is cryptocurrency and digital assets in general, is that there's some cyclicalness to them, that we see these cycles happen, right? And, it's almost like the classic Gartner hype cycle. And I believe we're at the tail end of the second wave for NFTs, and what's going on right now basically is, what you see in the news and what the apes and all these profile pictures and things like that is, you see kind of these insane valuations and things like that, right? And what that is those are all primarily, I don't say all, but primarily those are crypto natives, right? They're all very focused kind of on their this very meme-ish culture and this very insider and organizations, right? We're starting to see a shift too, and I think this is very positive, is I think that's starting to die out, right? Because you can only, come up with so many kind of weird picture funny ideas. We're starting to see that much more orientation towards the technology and the utility is getting much more prevalent. And so you're seeing, ideas as well as NFTs coming from, larger organizations like Pepsi and Nike has been extremely successful with it. Gary Vaynerchuk, I was actually at a conference of his recently, again, is very much stressing the utility and the community aspects of it, and really kind of, trying to keep the hype down to a minimum. So I think the NFT side is from my perspective on a technology, is we're just now scraping the surface on what the capabilities are. But there are certain aspects of NFTs that are completely proven. The ability to control title and provenance, right, is undisputed. I mean, you absolutely have a evidence chain, right, that you're the owner of whatever that asset is, and that it can be easily transferred from one person to the next. And so I think we'll see fractionalized assets, right, fractionalized NFTs for real world assets as well as digital assets. But to Nancy's point, to Jean's point, we need a bit more regulatory clarity, right? So you're seeing a lot of front edge use cases and things like this. Now, I'll close on this about NFTs, is where we are seeing a lot of success, I think, in the last few months is, and this is why we think we'll do very well with the brands and organizations we work with now, is bringing those communities that they have today into this space, but abstracting away the complexity of it. You don't have to go to OpenSea, you don't have to go to Coinbase, you don't have to buy Ethereum, you don't have to do all these complex things. Instead, you simply can buy an NFT from let's say it's Dave Matthews, and it has real utility. So when you buy a Dave Matthews NFT, it's going to be the 20-year, and I'm not saying that's the band, but we're working on that, but the 20-year poster. And you get, when you go to live concerts, you get VIP access, for example, or you get discounts on tickets, or you get drops from future music, right? Well, there's a lot of Dave Matthews fans out there that are very interested in that kind of access. But again, on the front edge of these kinds of things, they're happening, and are happening now. But as we shift away from that hype-based, profile picture kind of liquidity game that we see in the NFTs, and move into a more structured utility and regulatory environment, I think that's when you'll see, then you can start doing funds, and you can start doing, more conservative type investment approaches. Thank you, Herb. I absolutely will reach out to you. Proof of humanity. Yes, I've heard of proof of humanity. And I think I'll mention that, and we're actually coming close to close here, is that Jean and I and others talk about this all the time, right? Is there are problems out there that exist in this space, in the Web3 world, around identity, around privacy, around traceability, right? Around small amounts, but still there's money laundering and things like that going on in the community. But the reality is that there are absolutely tools also to solve that are being developed. And that we're going to have powerful impact, I think, over the years. So like the proof of humanity ID, for example, is instead of your identity being held in an office at a government facility, right, or in a database somewhere, you instead have definitive ownership over your identity, and you can choose whether or not who you reveal it to. You can do a lot of things to control that, right? And so I'm really excited about what blockchain technology is going to do for privacy, as well as identity. So let's see. Jean, I think there's a question here that Angela Doyne asked. Did you see that one around?
I did. And so I think I can address that. I think it depends on how you're accessing Web3, but if you're using token or cryptocurrency, the requirement's going to be the same as the traditional access to any payment system. You need to do KYC. You have to do OFAC sanction screening. These are all current requirements. Even though there's not formalized regulatory guidance over the space, I think most players, most exchanges have moved to the traditional onboarding requirements of collecting certain data and verifying or using technology to verify, which is the area where I'd like to see we go, either facial recognition and other types of newer technologies to perform the KYC requirement. I think over time, we're going to see that more solidified specifically in the space. So stay tuned for that. But if you're building something now, there are tons of services, not tons, but there are many services out there that can actually perform the KYC and onboarding for you, and the transaction monitoring, as well as the sanction screening, third-party vendors. And so those are readily available to utilize. The only thing I would add, the difference between a regular payment system that does transaction monitoring, if you're using crypto, you need a third-party service like a blockchain analysis firm. There's several good ones out there that actually do the blockchain analysis specifically to identify bad users and block them from transacting.
All right. So I think we're coming near to the close here. And so I'm self-facilitating again. One of the things that Gagan wanted me to close with really is kind of final thoughts and, where did I think that I saw Bamboo 5 years from now? And, that was like it really required me to dig into that. And, I came up with this answer is that I think when you recognize a few things, that hype and speculation are transient, but the technology is real, that the utility is real, and it's a game changer. And so for me, this is not even more, it's not just Bamboo as an organization, it's being part of a renaissance, right? Another industrial revolution that I think we're on the front edge on, and it's around governance, it's around a creator economy, it's around intellectual property rights and who owns them, it's around transparency. It's really about changing, right, the model of how business is done and how communities collect together and self-organize. And so to me, being in technology and finance and all the organizations I've been over my lifetime, I've really never seen, such game changers out there. And also at the same time, such a kind of radical environment. So, Winston Churchill quote that Gagan wanted to get out there: never let a good crisis go to waste. Well, I don't necessarily see it as a crisis. Some people, the media would have you do that, but I think it's huge opportunity right now. And so in closing, I know that I've been to a number of SBC, SBN, ASBN conferences, and I've always loved the triple bottom line ethos. So to me, where I would love to see Bamboo in 5 years is that first, people, right? It's very people focused, in that it's not only our shareholders and our investors and our employees, but this extended network of communities, this extended network of governance, the charities and social good, opportunities that we find in that. And from a planet perspective, really helping kind of be part of shaping that future. Technology tends to be very amoral, and I think it's if it's in the being guided by people who want to leverage it for what they see that matters and seeing a real change in the world, then I think that we need more organizations like that. So to do that, I think we also want to have a global outreach. So I'd see us having capabilities in other countries, developing countries. Ideally, there's a lot of ideas that we have around, we mentioned earlier, the unbanked and the underbanked, and de-risking them from local currencies, creating stable, much more stable rates of return, protecting their investments. And from a planet perspective, I'd love to see more of a charitable component in 5 years too, maybe even a foundation, knock on wood. And then lastly, of course, profit, right? People, planet, profit. I think if we take care of our business, I think if we take care of the people and we're received and we execute well, then and we're innovative, then profit comes naturally from that, right? So to me, it's about the fundamentals and understanding what we're doing and having that trust and that engagement and that vision. And then, the profit comes, right? So I was asked, how long do you want to do this? And I said, well, I want to do this until it's not fun anymore. But for me, it's about building a legacy. I'm not doing this to success would be great, but this is about a legacy for me. This is about building something special. So, all right. Any other closing words? I think we're at time. So hope everyone enjoyed the presentation today, and thanks for being patient with us as we had to shuffle things around a little bit to get everything out there. So look forward to further connections. My inbox is open. Please feel free to reach out and have some further conversations with us.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you all.
Yeah.
Thank you.